Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 17th episode of my design journey, hosted on the platform of Just Design. Just Design is a creative community where designers come to learn, share, and connect. And today, we are glad to be hosting a seasoned architect by the name Architect Shegun Olaonipekun. I think once I drop this line, you will hear his voice next. And I would like to say that Just Design is a platform not just for designers, it's for professionals within the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, essentially the built environment professionals. And so it cuts across architecture, engineering, construction, and we'll be glad to have your feedbacks as we embark on this journey. Thank you very much and welcome.
Oluwasegun Olaonipekun is a chartered architect with 13 years of extensive work experience in design management and development, construction project management, and facility management. He's an advocate for designing safely and a safe working environment. He also holds a master's in business administration and project management. By privilege, he has successfully executed and participated in diverse projects, including residential, commercial, religious, healthcare, and educational developments. His key accomplishments include senior advisory roles for large-scale projects such as a 10,000 capacity church auditorium and multiple luxury apartment buildings. Designing and supervising high-profile projects including multi-million dollar university infrastructures, residential estates, and bespoke monuments, ensuring on-time and project-compliant delivery. Co-supervision of the Arc Legacy project, including a 109,000 capacity auditorium and twin 12-story office towers. Managed annual budgets, coordinated multidisciplinary teams, and implemented quality control and safety standards in various leadership roles at Covenant University and Landmark University. His expertise spans master planning, architectural detailing, project execution, and compliance with health, safety, and environmental standards. He has demonstrated excellence in managing complex projects from conception to completion with innovation and sustainable solutions.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Um, I want to appreciate the convener and the management team of Just Design for this rare privilege. It's greatly appreciated. Um, this evening, we'll be going through a topic I captioned the many sides of an architect, still in the making process. Next slide. So the many sides of an architect still in the making process. Please, can you go back to the first page of the slide? Yeah, sorry for the technical um, issues we just had. And I believe we are back now. The topic of the presentation today is the many sides of an architect still in the making process. One might want to ask why that topic. For me, it speaks to my architecture journey as a designer or social impactor, um, at the time as a facility manager, at the time as a project manager, at the time as a construction manager, and also at the time as a furniture um, designer or maker, then still in the making process. For me, I still want to believe that I'm still in the burning crucible, and there's still more um, to come as the year goes by. Um, Next slide, please. Next slide. Like I said earlier on, I want to sincerely appreciate the convener, the management team, the committed audience and followers of Just Design for this singular privilege to be on this platform. Thank you once again for having me. Next slide. Well, I won't fail. I will fail to do justice to this presentation without honoring a few persons that have made this journey um, the way it is thus far. The making of being an architect began in 2014 after passing the PPE exam under the tutelage of Architect Shola, Architect Yemi, Architect Bose, and Architect Adidapo. I'm entirely grateful to them, and they're still very much in constant communication to today on all professional matters. So they have been very helpful in terms of who this architect has become today and is still becoming as the day goes by. Also, it will interest you to know that this evening, next slide, I'm interestingly honoring this Peugeot 505 car. Next slide, please. Yeah, one might ask why this vehicle is here, RSH 698DA. This was the very first vehicle I used when I began my journey as an architect, and it crossed many streams, many roads, and many bridges from North Central, from Abuja to Kogi to Ondo to Ekiti, down to Osun, Ogun, Oyo, and Lagos. And it was it was a good one because it kept me on my job until we parted ways in 2015. So it's good that this evening I'm honoring this object that was part of the success story today. Now to our presentation this evening, which have captured the many sides still in the making process. Compliments of the season, we are still in the celebration period, and I want to extend my actual session greetings to everyone here this evening. Thank you for your support and encouragement throughout the year. Next slide. So my presentation will be in three timelines: 2011 to 2014, 2015 to 2021, and 2020 till date. I titled them under the subject "My Bittersweet Experiences." Why that subtitle? There were tough times of uncertainties, though I was resolute because this journey of architecture is one that I took on by myself. It was not suggested, neither was it recommended. It was a journey that I took on by myself with God helping me. So the next slide will be taking us through the 2011 to 2014 experience timeline, where it's It's under the caption of Interpreter of Dreams and a social impactor. I would love to say that between 2011 and 2014, it was a very short, fast, and a very engaging timeline. For me, it was very short, it was very fast, and very engaging, and that was what resulted into being a licensed architect in 2014. So that's about a 10-year journey ago. The next slide takes us to the first project that I was privileged to handle. It is an office development. Interestingly, this project was to come up on a 216 square meter land. That is less than even half a plot. If you go by 450 square meter, or go by 500, or go by 560 or 648. So it's a 216 square meter property, and the client wanted to be selling cars here and have one or two shops for his wife. It was a dump site. Next slide. We got all the necessary approvals. Next slide, please. These are the completion pictures. The last picture on the bottom right is the site at inception. Previous slide, please. Was a site at inception. It was a dump site, like I said, and then it transformed to this. Interestingly, we were supposed to go to suspended floors, but at the time, the neighborhood people demanded through the government agency that it was going to be a very imposing structure to them, that it will block their own views around. So we had to stop at the second floor subboard already cast, and then we had to suspend the project for a while until the client just had to budge, and we had to roof it with the slab within the roof. This next project is a 4-bedroom duplex and a 3-bedroom flat. Interestingly, my journey has been one that I think I just had, like, maybe if I want to count the number of clients, I can count them on one finger. So it's almost the same client, or the same client referring his friends. So it's just a case of doing your job well, and you have referrals from that same client for another client, or the same client giving you another job. So this was supposed to be a personal residence for the clients of even of that previous job that we just showed, which was an auto shop. We actually did it was designed to be a 4-bedroom duplex with a 3-bedroom flat. But however, when we began the project, it's a swampy site. When we began to reclaim the land, interestingly, we used about 100 trucks of filling sand. And back then, I think filling sand was about 20,000 naira per truck. We spent about 2 million plus to fill the site, to reclaim the land. We know how much that is going to cost you. So by the time we're done with the foundation, the client said no. After spending this much at foundation level, and we have adhered to the design of the structural engineer, we are going to take the 3-bedroom flat to 2 number instead of 1 number. So we had to go back to the relevant government agencies to secure a seconded approval to change what he had already requested for. So the next slide will show you that at the back, instead of having 1 flat, we now had 2 flats. So this is the picture of the final outlook of the project. Though a little changes, windows were introduced at the front. Next slide shows the project at construction stage. Then the next slide takes us to the third projects in this timeline. Like I said before, it's from one job to the other. It was the client of this job that referred us to the next one, who was a friend. And this one was supposed to be, next slide please, it's supposed to be a 3-bedroom block of 4 flats. Our engagement here was just design and supervision. The previous 2 projects I forgot to mention was design and build. We were fully involved at the design and the construction stage. You can see that from this picture here, you can see the Peugeot car. It came all the way from North Central to Lagos Southwest, all in a bid to be on the job. It was just to supervise the project at intervals, and it was successfully completed. Though this particular project is within a built-up estate, so it was one that, in a way, transformed the landscape of this estate. Next slide. The next slide takes us to another interesting project within a built-up neighborhood. The terrain was tough. The land had already been encroached. It was supposed to be a 600 plus square meter, but at the time we were designing, what we had left was 469, because from behind they had encroached. An industry had encroached from behind, so what was left for development was just about 469 square meters. So we had to make do with that. A basement floor and 2 suspended floor. Interestingly, this was just a design brief. So it was a case of what was designed versus what was built. If you look at the next pictures, you wonder whether it was the actual design that was given to those that were building. So this was the design. The next slide shows you what was built. Next slide, please. So it's a case of what was designed and what was built. Though it was still the same 4-bedroom, 7-detached duplex, but the external outlook was totally changed. Next slide. Next slide, please. The 5th project on this 2011 to 2014 timeline is this low-rise, medium-density estate. It's a 42-unit dwelling estate. We had, I think, about 4 typologies: fully detached duplex, semi-detached 3-bedroom, semi-detached 4-bedroom duplex, and then 3-bedroom bungalows. The designs were fully completed. The construction is partially completed because it's being developed at the pace of each owner. Next slide. So the next slide shows you various phases of the development. Next slide. So the next 4 slide shows you all the different typologies: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next slide. So our last project on this 2011 to 2014 timeline is also a residential low-rise estates development. This is 80 dwelling units. It was only a design brief. 4-bedroom terraces and then block of 6 flats. Next slide. So we'll be going next to 2015 to 2021 timeline. But before we go into that timeline, like I said earlier, 2011 to 2014 was a very short, fast, and very engaging period. So something happened. I had to slow down and shut down. When I mean slow down and shut down, I was literally almost either on the road, in the air, shuttling between the North Central and the Southwest, trying to meet up job schedules and timelines. So I needed to shut down because I needed to start almost afresh. And the reason for that is because I had some experiences within this 2011 to 2014. One, I had a health scare, and 2, I had an almost fatal accident. The health care landed me at, interestingly, at UCH hospital, and the medical director then told me that was asking whether I was a chain smoker, whether I was a drug I was into drugs. I said no. And what was the resultant effect? It was that I already had a I had blocked arteries and everything. So, but I couldn't breathe very well because of exposure to hazards on site. So within this 2011 to 2014, I did not have that inkling or that understanding of the health and safety part of construction. So I had to shut down and slow down and take a new turn. So by 2015, from the next slide to 2021 until date, I now joined the services of Covenant University, where I just need to calm down because I was running pretty very fast. And at the time I joined the system, my career path changed drastically. Made that I was used to being design and being on site, and I became almost a facility manager, or some might call it a maintenance manager. But it was an it really was an interesting experience because it took me to another part of the sides of an architect, on understanding the maintenance culture of a building, the reliability culture, and the sustainability culture of a building. So, okay, yes, you have the design, yes, you have built, but how well are you maintaining this building? So, under this timeline, I will just take two examples, and my practical experiences at my assignment at Landmark University. Next slide, please. The first one, interestingly, is when, next slide, please. I think it was 2018. I think I had just resumed then. And the previous slide, please. I had just resumed then, and then we had prepared, of course, since it's a university system. The previous slide, please. Since it's a university system, yes, we operate by budget. So you don't work out of the budget provisions, except there are extra budgetary approvals provided. Next slide. So we had already presented our budget. We have gotten approval for the budget for the year running. Then all of a sudden, we had this wonderful windy experience. Please, the next slide, please. We had this wonderful experience that, yes, almost about 1 kilometer plus of the fence collapsed. Previous slide, please. Previous slide, facility manager slide, collapsed. And we had prepared the bill for this project, and it was amounting to between 39 and 41 million as far back as 2019. So you know how much that will cost in today's economy. So, and I was told that you're going to execute this project from within your current budget. You are not going to get any extra budgetary funding. Wow. So it means that some of the items that were already captured in the budget, we were going to have to suspend those works. So I had to set my head thinking that what was going to be the way out. Well, eventually from 41 million, the project came to 39. So in the spirit of quality delivery, timely delivery, and also ensuring that we maintain the approved sum, because after that incident, about 200 meters plus collapsed again, and I knew the process we had to take to get that one approved initially. So we had about 200 meters plus again collapse, and I told myself, okay, how will I get this result? 1 kilometer plus, now 200 meters plus. So I told the QS, let us convert this project to semi-contract. What did we do? I said, well, we have so many demands because it's already a built-up campus. So majorly we're doing repair and maintenance, and probably little renovations and change of use. So I said we needed to convert this project to semi-contract. Well, whatever happens, I will take full responsibility. Whatever happens, the bulk still lies on my table as the project director. So I said, well, let's call Lafarge. Let's call an iron steel distributor, and let's see how we're going to make our desired type of block, because we're trying to reconstruct a more stable fence. So the fence initially was 6 inches. We're trying to do 9 inches with columns, with ground beams, so where that was swampy and waterlogged. So we did that. We bought a full truck of cement. We bought reinforcements, and we bought blocks vibrated, produced to our standard. Though many did not like it, but interestingly, it will shock you that at the end of this scheme, we had about 200 bags of cement left. And that was what we used to run the repair and maintenance on the campus for a whole session. What are the takeaways from this particular experience is that as an architect, aside from just designing or just being flamboyant about aesthetics or just being crazy about the outlook, you should understand that budgeting is very important, and you should be able to track budgeting and follow through with cash flow and resource allocation. So at every stage in the project, we're ensuring that resources, we have to follow through with it. Issuance of materials, because you can imagine buying 600 bags of cement, a truck that was dropped, and we were able to use just about 400, and we had about 200 bags left, and we were able to use that for repair and maintenance all through the session. So the takeaway from this project was that understand budgeting, track budgets, and be able to follow through with cash flow and resource allocation, because we are not working in isolation. There's a finance director, there's an audit director, and there's an approval process. The next project is the construction as a construction manager. We had this experience of 5 number churches in 5 different locations, and we're to complete them within the same time frame. So from where we were to the different churches, we had one at 5 minutes drive, the other at 10 minutes drive, the other at 30 minutes drive, the other at 45 minutes drive, and the other at 1 hour drive. And we had to deliver all of these projects at the same time. We have to give them the necessary supervision at the same time without hampering with our primary assignments on campus. So the next thing that I had to do with my team was that, well, I can't be at all locations at the same time every day. So we just have to deploy personnel to each site based on location and competency. So the nearest person to me was one that I could dash quickly, because probably the person was less competent. So the competency level was from the person at 1 hour. It will take me an hour to drive to the last site. So the person there was like a strong man, or in quotes, the strongest man. Then the next person at 45 minutes drive was like a stronger man. Next person was like a strong man. Then like that. So I could quickly dash down to 5 minutes or 10 minutes from within the campus to check on what those 2 sites were doing, because they're just close by. But others, we had to ensure that the persons there were very, very strong, and they were very, very firm persons that can own up to responsibilities. So we had site meetings every Friday, regardless of those locations. So they all had to come back to base and give reports of site activities, and site inspections followed afterwards. The major takeaway from this project was that, also within budgetary constraints, we realized that every project site is peculiar. We had a fixed sum for each site, but at inception, before we started, we had a recce of all sites. So we knew that all sites had their peculiarities. So we told the contractors it's going to be a measured contract. So please take your mind off this fixed sum. They're going to measure and pay everybody according to job done. And interestingly, as far back at that time, The lowest person got a pay was about 4 million to the highest person. So everybody had different sums paid to them because of the peculiarity of their site. So the takeaway from this is that every project site is peculiar. Understand the peculiarity of your site, the salt type, allow the relevant professionals to carry out all due diligence. So regardless of the fact that I was the project lead, every other person had to ensure that the civil engineer, the structural, mechanical had to own up to their assignments. And interestingly, they were all up to the task, and the project was successfully delivered. Also, carefully study all construction documents and constantly engage with them. Interestingly, you might be surprised that some items that you did not imagine or you had imagined are either probably omitted or were wrongly represented, maybe by the understanding of the QS or the engineer. If you don't go through this documentation thoroughly, you might be caught in the web of surprises. So as a project lead, it's always important to go through all of these documents, regardless of how voluminous it is. So those are the takeaways from this project. The last timeline was when COVID came. So between 2015 and 2020, next slide, I had a total shutdown. So when I say shutdown, I was not doing private practice at all. I was not doing anything private practice. But when COVID came, I sat down and I told myself, wow, this is COVID. Is this how we are going to continue living? Then something began, webinars began, virtual workspace began in the academia and all of that. I said, well, if this can happen in the academia, it can also happen in the built environment. So I began, of course, I had always referred all of those clients in those periods to other persons that, sorry, at the moment I can't take up these jobs. Sorry, at the moment I can't take up these jobs. Sorry, at the moment. A lot of them were not placed, but it was a personal decision. I had to slow down. I had to shut down. So, but by 2020, I came up again because a client just came up, and a diaspora client, and said, I want to do this. I was far away in the North Central, or like call it Southwest, and the site was in Abeokuta. I did not visit that site, but work went on that site successfully. So that was how the virtual workspace came about. That there's more to do in collaboration, networking, partnership, and remote working. So I started practice again, so as to sharpen the blunt edges of my career. Next slide, please. So the first project, interestingly, after that small scheme, was this next one. When the client called, by next slide, please. It's a brief for luxury apartments, and I explained to the client point blank, previous slide, please, that sorry, I won't be able to take up this job fully, but except for the following conditions. Yes, you could engage me as your consultant by privilege, but the interactions will be mainly with a team that I will set up. Even the residency, the architects there were recommended by senior colleagues. So it's a stage 1 to 3 project. It's an ongoing project. It has special features like 340 powers, 6 number lifts, HVAC, central sewage. I don't think I've been to this site more than twice since the project started, and I get weekly reports. But the sacrifice I have to pay is sleepless nights, because I have to meet up with their own RFIs or inquiries. So my spare time or my time to sleep at the times I have to give it, even if it's 2 hours, I just have to give to this virtual life I've created, or remote workspace I've created for myself. Next slide. So the next slide shows the project in detail. Next slide, please. It shows the project. It's 48 luxury apartments. Next slide, please. It shows the substructure has been completed 340 piles. So superstructure is on the way at the moment for this particular project. Like I said earlier, it's one referral. So that's the model of the project and some of the pictures showing activities on the side. So regardless of the fact that I wasn't very readily available or I'm not physically available, the client reposed some level of confidence and the next brief also came. Though the next brief has not yet started, it's a 51 number luxury apartment. At the moment, it's just stage 1 to 2. Hopefully, the time it starts, persons that are available will be deployed or will be engaged for such a scheme if we are to partake as stage 3 for residency. Next slide, please. So the next project, this is that 51 number luxury apartments, also from the same client. So probably maybe as soon as it completes the previous one, we will start this one. Next slide, please. The next slide, it's a 10,000 capacity church auditorium. I have never designed a church auditorium building before. So when this brief came, I had to study. So as an architect or as one in the built environment, one thing that must have coming for you is the willingness to study. It's a 10,000 capacity church auditorium, and the site is a built environment. It's a built-up environment, and the client said he wanted 10,000. We began with 6,000. He said no. We got to 7,500. He said no. He said it must be 10,000, and the terrain was distorted. The client was demanding, and finally we came to 10,000. We had to have a basement of about 2,700. Ground floor was 4,789, and the first floor was 2,680. So by the time we added up, we were about 10,470 thereabout. So it's just a stage 1 and 2 because I also did not want to demand so much of myself because of my current engagement. So the designs were done and we handed over to the clients and the construction company. So it's just a stage 1 and 2 scheme. Next slide. So the next slide shows you some pictures of the projects, how far they've gone, rough foundation, some part wrap, some part deep beam strips, and it's currently ongoing. And next project 2, we also made the first of its kind for us. It's an health development. So one might add that I've been the journey has probably been basically residential, then all of a sudden religious and health. So this was meant to be a health development. The client is private. The client is more like a personal physician. Interestingly, I was the ring bearer of this client several decades ago. So he called and said, young man, I know you are busy, but can you come up with something for us? And we had to come up with this. It's also a stage 1 and 2 project. We had to study to do something very, very simple and portable. It's a specialist hospital. It's a 10-bed specialist hospital. It's it has its core for just a particular area of medical or the medical profession. So it's not general medicine. It's just for a particular part of the medicine profession. So, and all of those provisions were made in the brief and in the design. So at the moment it's approved, of course, at the point of construction, if we are needed, we will always attend to them as time gives us the privilege or permission to do so. However, the limit now is just design. Finally, also, just like I said, that my many sides of architecture began from interpreting clients' brief, construction management, facility management, and now interested into furniture making. I just got this brief that we want to do a revamp in 4 of our centers and all of that. And would you mind giving us a facelift of a few of our spaces? And that's brought us into designing furniture. So the last few slides just show furniture that we did for about 4 locations with reception tables, office tables, and that of you. So that's has been my journey the last 10 years, from interpreting client brief to being a core facility manager, to being a construction manager, to be a project manager, and also to be a furniture designer. In all of these journeys, these are some few bittersweet parting thoughts for me as a person. One is in the words of a renowned architect, that less is more. As an architect, it's very important that you keep your design simple, clean, and uncluttered. Cluttered spaces also lead to difficult execution. Focus on essential elements. We enhance the space for functionality, aesthetics, and avoid unnecessary complexity. Next slide is it talks about. Next slide, please. Yeah, as an architect, you must be excellent in detailing. You must have eyes for excellence. True excellent lies in details, carefully choosing materials, precision in construction. So that was one thing I was gunning for all those, the first timeline, 2011 to 2014. I wanted to always be present at every stage of the project, either setting out or marking out, because of that issue of precision. But not knowing that there's a place of delineation of responsibilities. You don't have to be the one doing everything. It's in the small things that will elevate a project, making it exceptional. Next slide. As we round up, next slide. Yeah, like I said, delineation of responsibilities or power as leadership. Effective leadership means clearly defining roles and responsibilities. Let members of your team own their responsibilities and be answerable for whatever outcomes. In architecture, it's about guiding teams with clarity, making decisions and taking shape, and making sure that shape the project, and ensuring each team member contributes to the vision. Everyone on the team must contribute to the vision. Next slide. No, there's a slide before this. Okay, learn to control your appetite for perfect. One thing I've realized is that even after I've completed a design, and a design in the sense that I just do schematics, I just do drafts, and a host of other architects do the job of detailing, designing, and all of that, because there are many architects to engage out there. Some just want to be on their own, just want to be in their space. So they would love to work remotely. So I also realized that even after submitting a design to a client, you can realize that that same design can be tweaked, but there's nothing more you can do after you have submitted already. Just like as in food, diet, dietary and nutrition. You don't eat all your favorites in one day. As an architect, you don't have to put all your best ideas on one project. For me, there's always a lifetime to make a statement. Uh, you have 10, 20, 30, 40 years to practice. So as time goes on, you're making statements every time um, you give something out there. So as an architect, there's always a lifetime to make a statement. Thank you very much for the privilege once again. That's about my presentation this evening. I want to thank the convener again for this platform and the opportunity to be here. It's a rare privilege, which I don't take for granted. Previous slide, please. I also want to appreciate the media team. Like I said, I've learned that you don't have to do everything by yourself. Collaboration is very important. Teamwork is very good. It breeds, it even enriches the mind. So these slides were prepared by my media team, just the information we give. So I want to sincerely appreciate them for their support. Several changes till the very last 2 hours to this meeting. And once again, season's greetings to all, wishing you joy and success this festive period and the new year to come. Thank you very much for listening. That's my time.
Wow. Thank you very much, Architect Olaonipekun Oluwasegun. It's been
Thank you very much, sir.
an exciting, almost about 45 minutes now thereabout. Thank you very much.
My apologies for that time.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think a lot to learn from your journey, and I will just speak to just one of them, and I think I'll just start with the very last one, because that particular last one resonates with me. I could see myself in that last one, and I think many architects, do the same, which is learn to control your appetite for perfect. I think in the words of my professor in the university, Professor Akonda Adeyemi, I think at one time he said to me in a studio jury, and he said, learn to restrain yourself. When you just have that creative juice, just want to be designing and just extending your creativity. He said, hey, hold on, take your creativity. So I think that resonates well with me. I think with many architects. I think for me, that's among other things. I mean, you're versatile in your journey from residential to religious to health, But I think amongst all, a very key one for me is the fact that architects should learn to restrain even as we design. And I think one that I shouldn't forget as well is the fact that the role of community engagement in design, particularly your very first project that you showed, the office design that was meant to be 3 floors, but by the power of the community, not even power of planning control, development control, the power of the community, it became a 2-floor structure. And I think for architects, that's instructive, that we don't design for angels or for animals, we're designing for people. And people matter in design. And I think for me, that's very, salient learning point within your journey. And I'll say thank you very much. And shortly, we'll be taking questions from our, from our audience. And I'm sure a couple of them are already coming in. But as we do that, I'd like to just, expect a few questions, and then we can get right to it. Thank you very much. Okay. I can see my very favorite architect and friend, Architect Moa Mola Kuya. What are the key skill sets you have adopted in your different design duties, tasks that a young architect can adopt? Yes, architecture. Go.
One is that be willing to learn. One is that you must be willing to learn and learn from anybody. Be willing to learn and learn from anybody, whether young, old, or your colleague. And you should stay curious. You stay curious and also be patient as an architect. I know young architects are very well. I'm still a young architect anyway, but younger architects are very, very uneasy. I'll use that word because they want to express innate creativity. But in the midst of innate creativity, have at the back of your mind that you can a design can be very creative and not functional. So you need to be careful about your exploration of creativity. It can end up not being functional, and that's in the end does not satisfy your clients at the end. So at the end, so for me, willingness to learn, curiosity, and patience to grow. There's always, like I said, there's always a lifetime to make a statement. You don't have to make that statement now. Just keep on upping your game and your skills. That time will come that you will make that statement and it will be loud.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, I think while we architect QSC has another question. What are the transferable skills you deployed from being an architect to a facility manager?
Well, as an architect, of course, ours is to the design based on client's brief and requirements. But as a facility manager, your responsibility is to ensure that that space or that building still serves the purpose of its design. So one skill I learned is that, or one lesson I've learned is that don't recommend as an architect in abstract. Always remember that whatever you are recommending, somebody is going to manage it. So I realized that most of the things that probably we recommended or will have recommended based on choice, in reality, as a facility manager, it might not be practical. So as an architect, you should know that your design transcends from just your job transcends from just being an architect. There's always the life of the building, and a building is expected to live its lifetime. So if your design cannot live its lifetime based on specifications or materials you've recommended, it's not a success. So understand what you are recommending as an architect, and that is one thing that has helped me from the back end as a facility manager. That as a manager, what I'm recommending must be durable, must be sustainable, must be fit for use, must be fit for purpose. So I think that's one takeaway I've learned as a facility manager in the last few years of being in that space.
Okay. I think the QSC has one more for you. What is that one special project and why?
One special project. But for now, I don't think I have one special project. I've just given myself to every project as they come. Maybe that one special project will be one that will be by me. Maybe it's as conceived by me or her, but I don't think at the moment every project stands to be special because I give myself to it as they come. So at the moment, I've not had that one special. So I must be sincere. that I've not had that one special project, but every one of those projects so far, I've come in their special ways, and I've given myself to I've given myself to each of them as required. So maybe in the nearest future, I will have that one special project, because remember I said it's still in the making process. It ain't started yet.
Right. Thank you very much. I think we've had a lot to unpack from your journey. I want to say thank you very much. And just to iterate, even though you are trying to be a bit modest about it, Shagun has had the opportunity in his profile in his short 13 years to have served as deputy director, physical planning and development, Covenant University. He has had the privilege also to serve as the director, physical planning and development of Landmark University, and so he's had, a wide array of experience in his very short practice, years. And particularly, I think for me, your journey is one that tells about the architect being universal in the sense that you work as a designer, core, you work as a facility manager, you work as a construction manager, as a project manager, and I think it just sums up the fact that an architect needs to be versatile. And I think for me, among others as well, that's another lesson that we can pick from your journey, that the architect must be versatile. Should be a designer, be able to manage a building, maintain a building, be able to manage construction. And I think putting together all of these will make for a good architect. Thank you very much for your wonderful experience. Your journey is insightful, and I'm
Thank you
sure
for
we'll
having me.
inspire lots of other architects. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening. You can follow our guests on Fellow Architects Limited on IG. It's doing a great job, and also it's also here on the Arc project as a resident architect, doing a fantastic job. Very agile architect. Thank you very much, and hope to
Thank
see
you, sir.
you next time. Okay, we have John Oko. Okay, asking what are criteria you consider for job delegation? I'm a builder though.
Okay, for John Oko, as a builder, the first job criteria I will consider John Oko for is as a construction manager. Why? Because as a builder, you know, even currently, you realize that architects almost take the role of builders because they start the race.
Okay, well,
But
sorry,
after,
Adesegun, can I call you back? I think his question is looking at what are the criteria you consider for job delegation in you delegating job to subordinates.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the criteria is you must be able to sieve the competence of everyone. It's either you are sieving their competence from referrals or you are sieving their competence from close work experience. So it's either the person has worked with you before or has worked with somebody before you know, or you have um, his profile and you can and make inquiry as regards his past experiences. So, in considering someone for job applications, we just need to sieve out a lot from his experience, and that will guide you in appropriately placing such persons uh, in the areas that are best fit. So you have a square peg in a square hole and not have a square peg in a round hole. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to go now. Thank you for your time, Adesegun, and thank you for our audience.
Thank you
I
very
will
much, sir.
meet with you next month again with another phenomenal architect. He's a very senior architect with lots of decades of experience behind him. That's in person of architect Ladipo Lewis. I think we can have his poster on the screen as we take it back. Thank you.